Hi friends, my name is Jenny Swisher and I am the creator of the Sync digital course and also the founder of the Sync Scope. You have received your Sync Scope in the mail, so now it is time to really dive into how this thing is going to work for you and how you're going to be able to track your menstrual cycles with this device. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of backstory. I struggled with chronic migraine most of my life. I never knew that it was hormonal until I finally did. And it wasn't until 2017 when I was exposed to this saliva pattern idea that I was really able to up-level my cycle syncing and really up-level my health overall thanks to this biohacking tool. So this was introduced to me by a compounding pharmacist who was extremely knowledgeable. And when I would talk to him about these patterns I was seeing in not only my periods, but in my migraines, he said, have you ever thought about tracking your saliva patterns? And I thought to myself, like, what is he talking about? My husband and I had dealt with infertility a decade ago, and everything about fertility pointed us to urine test strips, right? Like we were using those ovulation test strips to see when I was most fertile. And of course, they never seemed to work, which I found out later, they're actually not accurate for most women. I wish I had had this device when dealing with my infertility journey, but I didn't. So in my 30s, I started using it, and it's been an absolute game changer for me. I'm able to track patterns to see what's causing my headaches. I'm able to sort of combat those headaches thanks to just knowing when my estrogen is rising, which is my trigger. But it's also helpful for things like, planning for a baby or avoiding pregnancy, right? All those kinds of things. But for the purposes of today, I want you guys to understand what you're looking for, what this thing picks up on, and how it can help you ultimately sync with your cycle. So first and foremost, let's talk about the device itself. Obviously, it's like a lipstick tube, fits in your pocket. It's perfect for on the go. I travel with mine, so anytime I'm out of town, I take it with me because I use it most days of my cycle just to see what my hormones are doing. So the first thing I want to mention to you is there is a light built into the device. So when you take the cap off, the light is automatically on. Some people will say to me, I can't get the light to turn off. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to be on anytime the cap is off. When the cap goes back on, the light shuts off, meaning you don't need it, right? When the cap's on, you're not using it, so it knows to turn off. So when you open up the actual device, you're going to remove the black lens. And just as an FYI, you are not to put any part of this device in your mouth or anywhere else. This is supposed to all be external, right? So this is what's going to happen. You're going to set this down. You're going to use your black lens. You'll see where there is a flat side. The back side of the lens is flat. You're going to take your index finger. You're going to dab it under your tongue. You're going to tap it all over the lens so that it gets nice and juicy. Then you're going to simply set it down and let it dry, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. You want it to be all the way dry before you evaluate the results. Once it's dry, you'll take it, you'll pop it back onto the microscope. The light will already be on, and you're able to then hold it up and look and see what patterns are showing for you. Some people prefer to do it with the light. My husband actually likes to take it off and also look at it up to natural light just to see if he can get a different look. But regardless, you'll see one of three patterns on this scope. The first pattern, which is what you're going to see the most often, is just simply bubbles. It's just going to look like bubbles, and you're going to wonder to yourself if you're doing it right. But I'm here to tell you, most of the month, there's only 2 times in your month where estrogen surges, right before your period, but also primarily at ovulation. So we want to be able to track your ovulation. Why? Because ovulation is actually your 5th vital sign. It is so important to understand whether or not your body is ovulating regularly so that we know it's like an overall indicator of your hormone health. So some people track periods, and that's great, but I like to track ovulation because it tells us if your body is ebbing and flowing with hormones as it should. So you're going to test this, I would say, days 8 through 20 of your cycle. Option 1 is going to be the bubbles. If you see the bubbles, you know nothing's happening. Estrogen's not surging. I'll try again tomorrow. The next day, you do it again. When you do it again, you could potentially see, especially toward the center of your month, you'll start to see what happens in transition. So as your body is transitioning and estrogen is starting to rise to prepare for ovulation, you'll start to see this really cool, I like to call it snowflake on a window pane look. So I live in the Midwest. When it's dead cold February, the windows kind of get this crystallizing pattern of snow on them, right? This frosty look. That's what it'll look like on your scope. That means that your estrogen is starting to rise. And then, of course, very soon after, you'll have a really brief window, maybe 24 to 48 hours, where you see some sort of jungle fern pattern. It looks like literal like palm branches on the scope. It's a beautiful pattern. That tells us that you are now in ovulation, like full-blown ovulation. So being able to test this every day, sometimes even twice a day, and to take notes, whether it's pen to paper or on your phone or using an app, to really see month to month what's happening. Are you ovulating every other month? Are you ovulating regularly around the same day of your cycle each month? Those are things you're going to want to pick up on, in addition to any symptoms that you're feeling throughout your cycle. So a couple of things that I want to mention when it comes to this is, a lot of times people will say, well, I had bubbles all month long, like nothing ever showed for me. It could be that maybe if you're dealing with PCOS or endometriosis, or maybe there's something off with your hormones. It could be that you're not ovulating, and that's very common. I see that quite a bit with women dealing with hormone imbalance. But also just make sure that you're testing it a couple times throughout the day to get a feel for any changes that might happen throughout the day, especially during the center part of your cycle. So I like to tell people, you never want to test your saliva immediately after eating or drinking anything. So at least 1 hour after you've had any water or food is when you want to test. My favorite time to test is first thing in the morning and then right before bed at night, because usually, obviously, first thing in the morning, I've had nothing in my mouth. And then in the evening, I usually have had nothing in my mouth either before I go to bed. So those are great times to test. So this is step one, right? Understanding how to use this scope, get comfortable with it, start tracking your cycles, everything pertaining to your hormone health, whether you're looking to get pregnant or looking not to, or whether you're looking to cycle sync your fitness and nutrition, which is what I teach in my Sync Digital course, or you're simply wanting to get a better idea of what your body's doing. This is step one. Knowing when you're ovulating and understanding what your body is doing is going to help you go into doctor's appointments more confidently. It's going to help you pick up on patterns, and it's going to help you become your healthiest self. So thanks for listening today. We'll come back with you guys tomorrow with some more tutorials, but in the meantime, cheers.